CCC. 6. The history of Nintendo and its worldwide success. Few companies have revolutionized the world of entertainment in the same way that Nintendo has done. His career is characterized by a series of changes and risky decisions, which are worth knowing in detail to understand the reason for his success worldwide. Thinking about all this essay aims to analyze the history of Nintendo, emphasizing some of its products, which have captivated millions of people. It all began in 1889, when at the end of September a small store was opened in the city of Kyoto, which years ago had been considered the capital of Japan. In this place, a young artisan decided to start his business, which consisted in manufacturing and selling a traditional card game known as Hanafuda, which is still quite popular in that country. The name of the store was Nintendo and had a very encouraging start. However, the first difficulties arose when the production costs stopped being compensated by the profit. Also, it was a product that stood out for its durability, so it was not necessary for people to renew it constantly, something that ended up affecting the demand. To solve this, the founder, whose name was Fusajiro Yamauchi, managed to establish sales and distribution strategies that consolidated him in the market. In spite of this successful beginning, Nintendo began to face serious difficulties like reason of World War II. This event brought several changes in the way of life of Japanese society, which left aside leisure and recreational activities to prioritize the acquisition of food and cover their basic needs. To remedy these complications, new clients were sought in countries that had not been adversely affected by the conflict. Also, a system of chain work was implemented, allowing production processes to be more effective. Nintendo was finally taken to the children's market, thanks to an agreement with Walt Disney. Basically, it consisted of the manufacture of letters where his mascot, Mickey Mouse, and other famous characters of the American company appeared. This new vision gained strength with the development of classic board games and different types of toys. Without a doubt, it is the stage where Nintendo reached the diversification of its commercial activities. Continuing its success, the Japanese company decided to enter the emerging market of video games. In this way, it launched its first console in collaboration with two manufacturers of electronic devices. The name of this team was Color TV Game, and first appeared in 1977. However, it was his successor, the currently iconic Nintendo Entertainment System, which changed the world of entertainment completely. Today, Nintendo has managed to launch several consoles and video games that have become classics. They were the big winners in the 16-bit era, where they beat their direct competition, Sega, thanks to a better marketing and promotion strategy. They also revolutionized the concept of portable consoles with the launch of the Game Boy in 1988. While we talked about the past few years, we find the Nintendo Switch, which stands out for its innovative design. 7. The importance of teamwork in business. The technological advances that have been implemented in industrial processes have made it possible to face the new competitive challenges of the globalized world. However, the human resource and its good training continues to represent an essential part in the administrative level, demonstrating that teamwork is the best strategy in any type of business. This is demonstrated in the economic order that currently exists, where companies must respond quickly to the commercial challenges that arise. In this way, innovation and creativity increase their relevance, becoming the basis of an educational system focused on the socio-economic development of a nation. There are several aspects to consider in order for teamwork to meet the objectives set. In the first place, there is the motivation and the active participation of the members, who must fulfill specific roles in an effective way. To achieve this, it is necessary that there is a person who has leadership skills, promoting the intellectual and motor skills of each employee. Likewise, it is essential to establish an area dedicated to strategic personnel training, which has to be identified with the company's objectives. The aforementioned is essential for a state of synergy to occur, which will only be possible through the coordinated work and collaboration of each individual. Businesses should follow this scheme at all costs, otherwise they will not be able to maintain a balance between human talent and new business trends. This means that having flexible and self-directed work groups becomes a business obligation. Only in this way will they be able to adapt and even anticipate changes in the market. Another important aspect is the complementarity, since it depends on the quality of the operations carried out, but also the ability to coordinate the activities in between. All this has a close link with the formation of interdisciplinary teams, which allow enriching the fluency of different proposals based on various types of knowledge. In this way, the participation of each member is encouraged, offering more creative ideas that favor the company. It should never be forgotten that any type of business consists of an open system that is conditioned by economic, political, and social variables. This reveals the need to exploit the available strengths, but always focusing on human talent. The importance of teamwork lies in its ability to overcome other strategies and procedures. This is achieved through the congruence of individual objectives with organizational objectives, allowing to achieve competitive advantages. CCCA 8. The types of discrimination and their presence in society. Despite the great advances in the field of human rights that have occurred in recent decades, there are still many cases of discrimination of different types around the world. Children are expelled from school due to illness, companies are promoted through misogynistic campaigns, job announcements are published that are excluding, law enforcement agents murder foreigners, lesbian women cannot register their partners in the insurance, among other incidents that can be condemned. These situations reveal a very alarming reality, where inequality is part of the routine and has been established in the culture of all countries. In smaller or greater scale it can be evidenced in different levels how men and women are discriminated by their race, sexual orientation, religious belief, social class, or another characteristic that is not shared by the predominant groups that dominate the judicial system of a certain nation. In the case of racial discrimination, several events can be found throughout history where the fundamental freedoms of every human being have been impaired. Today this is still happening, and even the current President of the United States became famous during the election campaign for his stance against Muslims. Also demonstrating that inclusion is often left aside, opting for xenophobia. On the other hand, gender discrimination is quite evident in the business culture of several countries, where women who come to occupy important positions cannot adapt to the system that is dominated by a macho perspective. The values that are exalted are those of men, and the salaries they receive are usually lower. This information has been verified by several studies carried out by the World Labour Organization. It is also necessary to analyze and reflect on homophobia, which represents one of the most common forms of discrimination. Both homosexual men and women are murdered everywhere, but in most cases crimes are treated as passional, when they are clearly motivated by hatred and intolerance. The legalization of homosexual marriage, for example, is seen as inadmissible for many governments and authorities, evidencing that they are not prepared to deal with their social, cultural, and legal recognition. There is no doubt that discrimination will continue to be part of the world for many years, but it can be fought from home and in educational centers, seeking to impart an inclusive and equitable vision of society to new generations. Likewise, it is essential to establish laws that protect minorities. Only in this way can we have access to sustainable development, and we can all coexist in peace and tranquility. Ka. 9. How to make friendships that last a lifetime. Thinking about a life without friends is practically impossible. We would be talking about surviving, full of loneliness and in isolation. It is always necessary the presence of someone who can be trusted, or help us in case of problems of any kind. Likewise, being able to share a moment with friends, whether for leisure or important issues, is irreplaceable. So a question arises, how to make friends that last a lifetime? Friendship is based on a set of positive feelings that result in an affinity between two people. Involves a series of experiences that help to consolidate an empathy that is increasing through the deal. For these reasons, it is important to be clear about what factors can help us to maintain a friendship for many years. First, and although it seems obvious, it is necessary that the people involved fall well. Friendships begin suddenly for this reason, when we find someone who shares our same convictions, tastes, fanaticisms, beliefs, and other things that allow an enjoyable conversation. The hours pass without realizing, between laughter and interesting comments. But it is not enough to have something in common, there must be stability in the relationship. It is very important to frequent each other and not allow long periods of time to end up becoming strangers. In addition, the only way to develop a lasting friendship is through the understanding that we must be willing to help the other person in a selfless way. Not for profit or anything like that. The personal information that is obtained from conversations results in another very important aspect, I mean knowledge. A good friend is one who knows you, knows about your past, the problems you have suffered, and everything you have had to live to get to that moment. He appreciates you as such, and that helps him understand you better. This should be valued by both, and show appreciation. Trust and loyalty are also essential. One must be able to trust the friend blindly, and know that he will be loyal at all times. So, it only remains to say that friends are of vital importance for the development of man. They contribute in their stability and improve their development in society. In order to have friendships that last and we can enjoy our whole life, there must be common tastes, disinterest, knowledge, gratitude, trust, and loyalty. They are the basis for a constructive relationship that will help us grow as a person. Ka. 10. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Hay algunas obras que se han convertido en clásicos casi de manera instantánea. En la literatura hispanoamericana, no cabe duda que una de las más importantes escen años de soledad, que desde su publicación en 1967 ha recibido múltiples reconocimientos a nivel mundial. Hoy en día, su volumen de venta supera los 30 millones de ejemplares, los cuales son solicitados por lectores de todas partes. Es considerada una de las mejores novelas en español, con traducciones en 35 idiomas, por lo que el presente ensayo está dedicado a analizar su estructura y temas centrales. Composed of 20 chapters that have no title, this book tells the story of a family and its different generations. In this way, we will know how they decide to settle in the middle of the jungle, founding the town of Macondo, for which they will have to overcome a series of problems with the objective of achieving economic, political, and social development. The first thing that draws the attention of 100 Years of Solitude is its structure, since the author uses a series of literary resources to create a cyclical time, where events and the names of the characters are often repeated. This does not conflict with the context, given that clearly episodes of Colombian history can be recognized. To be more specific, the civil wars that took place in this country during the mid-19th century. Regarding his narrative technique, the tone used is of passive heterodygitic type. In other words, each event is told in the third person, without elaborating its own judgments and not differentiating reality from supernatural elements. This characteristic allows events to be reported objectively. However, if we take into account the temporary jumps and the lack of linearity, it is a work that can generate certain confusions in the less experienced readers, who will have difficulties in their understanding. There are three central themes that are played in this novel. In the first place, as its name suggests, it is necessary to mention the feeling of loneliness, which is not only experienced by each new generation of the protagonist family, but in a certain way characterizes all the people. On the one hand is the inability to express love or trust in people, while in the case of the community, is more related to the poor contact they have with the modern world, eventually falling into oblivion. Fantasy is also part of 100 Years of Solitude, which through the use of literary figures, such as metaphor and epiphonema, manages to create a magical realism that captivates in different moments. The presence of the unusual does not produce fear or rejection, but is considered normal and attractive. On the other hand, the book also talks about incest, a theme that plays a very important role in the relationships of the main characters.